Hi, my name is Adora. I was published by age 7. I'm also the world's youngest teacher. So I know everything, right? Wrong. I still have a lot to learn, and you've come along for the ride. Well, let's see, my first book, which I published when I was 7, it's called Flying Fingers, and that contains 9 of my short stories, and I write mainly in the genres of fantasy and historical fiction. Wow, I live in the modern day. It's really crappy, so why do I want to read more about it? I like being a writer because it's not something so serious that if I write a fiction story and it's not a good fiction story, then it's not going to kill someone. I'm Adora Sweetalk, and I'm asking questions. I'm at the SETI Institute in Mountain View, California. I'm going to meet Dr. Jill Tarter, director of the SETI Institute. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
I think humans are so human-centric. We take ourselves so seriously that we really worry about how we fit in.
SETI stands for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Using both radio and optical telescopes, SETI's activities are controversial, with some opposed to the research that the Experimental Institute does. Still, these scientists persist, some devoting their whole lives to the search. I noticed your little poster, Is Anyone Out There? And I wanted to know, what is the purpose behind finding the answer to that question? Why do we need to know?
We've certainly been asking the question for a long time, right? And it's a question that it goes across cultures, across histories. I think we actually are always trying to figure out where we fit in. What else is out there? Where do we and the universe connect? At age 8, I decided I was going to be an engineer. I don't think I really knew what engineers did, but I knew that my dad's friends who were engineers were all men. And I had spent my youth growing up as a tomboy. I spent every weekend hunting and fishing and camping with my father. And then my dad said to me, you know, you're getting to be older. You ought to spend some time with your mom, more time with your mom doing girl things. And I'm going, this is crazy. This is stupid. Why do I have to make a choice? Why do I have to do girl things or boy things? Why can't I just do my things? And obviously the guys took shop and the girls took home. I said, I want to take shop. I like to make things with my hands. I want to learn how to use these tools. When my dad died when I was 12, I learned a lesson that most young people fortunately don't have to learn that hard way, that if you have an opportunity, go for it, right? I was the only woman in my class in my year at Cornell. It's just a question of you can do what you want to do, not what people say you ought to do because you're this or that. This "are we alone" question is one that humans have been asking since we first looked up at the sky. For millennia, all we could do is ask the priests or the philosophers or the people we considered wise, and we'd get told something that was dependent on their belief. And you should believe this. In the middle of the 20th century, we actually got some tools to turn this into a scientific exploration and to do some experiments and observations to answer the question. And it may take a long time for us to find ET or to conclude that, well, practically we are alone.
So now you have the technology to actually find out, but the search is probably going to take a long time because it's already been 50 years and maybe another 50 years.
If you think of 50 years of SETI observations on radio telescopes and optical telescopes, it's equivalent to thinking of all the oceans on the Earth and trying to search the oceans to see if there are fish in the oceans by taking a single 8-ounce glass and dumping it in the ocean and looking to see if you get a result. It's not a lot of sampling. And that's exactly where we are with SETI after 50 years.
I'm going to see the technology in action. We're traveling to the Hat Creek Radio Observatory in, no surprise, Hat Creek, California. It's about 280 miles from San Francisco, or a 5-hour drive. It's really in the middle of nowhere. And Hat Creek is also, according to Wikipedia, I know I'm doing too much Wikipedia, but it's an unincorporated town of 400 people with, I think, like 80 of them Native American, and about 300 of them are Caucasian. And okay, I didn't memorize all the statistics, that was just a couple things. But hi, we've just arrived at the Hat Creek Radio Observatory. As you can see behind me, we have an antenna, which I'm hoping is not in use because I'm using a wireless microphone. And you can also see a no hunting sign here, which looks pretty new. And I thought this was kind of funny because, after all, what the people here at the Allen Telescope Array is doing is hunting for extraterrestrial life. Snakes? Yeah. Really? Real snakes, yeah. Like biting snakes? Yeah. Oh.
So right now, we're gonna go poke our head inside the antenna, inside one of our telescopes. But these telescopes are very sensitive things, and computer devices like the laptop, this computer, and that camera transmit radio waves that can actually break and damage our equipment. So basically what this chamber does is it blocks out all the signals that are coming in from the outside. And that's really important when we want to know what kind of signals each little device is broadcasting on the inside. Those are what's being transmitted by that wireless device that's inside there. That's exactly the kind of thing that we want to avoid.
Well, apparently this is emitting too much noise, so we won't be able to use this. Luckily, this isn't the only microphone we're using. There is one on the camera.
We have two kind of big missions that we have here at the Allen Telescope Array. The first thing is that we're really trying to be a different tool for radio astronomers. Most telescope arrays that are like this work a lot like a telephoto lens. They really zoom in, and that's really good for some science. But for some, other science, you want to be able to zoom out. You want to be able to look at the big picture. And we're trying to be the first wide-angle camera for radio astronomy. But we're hoping that they're going to talk to us using radio waves. Very simple radio wave patterns that we can detect using these telescopes. So it's basically each one of these blades is pretty much designed to pick up one range of frequencies.
The Ray of Death, well, that was just, a fanciful name, but it's basically this thing that looks like a really heavily serrated blade almost, and there's like blades going all over and they're pretty sharp, and I'm wondering, why are you having this weapon-like instrument here? And that is actually not used to kill people, although that seems like what it was made for. And then another thing is I noticed when I was looking inside this giant telescope was that there were actually like some bird droppings up there, and I thought that it's funny, and then it really shows how even some really important, huge instruments, that birds and animals aren't gonna care what exactly you're doing. They're still gonna poop on there. Do you have any sounds that you receive from the radio signals?
We don't know what channel ET might be broadcasting on, so we monitor as many of them as we can simultaneously. We're not sitting there turning the knob, right? We listen to all the channels at once if we can. So we listen to about 100 million channels simultaneously with a big set of antennas. So, that's the idea. Now, if you actually found a signal, what it would sound like is sort of like a flute playing one note next to Niagara Falls. There's this big noise in the background, and you hear. That's what we try to pick up. If you get something like that, then somebody out there built a transmitter.
I think the most interesting signal that has ever been found was something called the WOW signal, and there was a telescope here in the U.S., I believe, that was looking up at the sky. They were tracking across the sky, and they just happened to notice the signal come 1 second and go away the next. And unfortunately, it was a long time before anybody really noticed this thing. But the researchers were really excited. They thought they had found something. It was just too powerful to be an astronomical signal. They went back several weeks, in fact, almost maybe even several months later, to try and find this thing again. Didn't see it. And as far as some people would consider that a detection, for SETI, SETI considers it a non-detection. But as far as alien interference with us, for the most part, we're only listening. In fact, all SETI activities is just listening for signals. We don't broadcast. So the chances of aliens actually finding us from this intentional broadcast, or from an intentional broadcast, or from something that SETI is doing, is pretty relatively small. And we do that because, and we don't broadcast because, of course, there are concerns of, should we contact an alien race that's broadcasting towards us? What are their intentions? But there's also the idea that, you know, we're researchers, but we don't represent the entire planet.
Obviously, yeah.
And it's we can't speak with one voice because it kind of robs everybody else the chance of, you know, deciding what do we say to these people.
I was wondering, is there a part of the scientific community or the general public that thinks that this is like really bogus, total waste of time?
Unfortunately, yes. There are people who think that the SETI effort is, you know, much better spent on alternative energies, or, you know, completely taken away from science altogether. But in the end, we have to kind of treat SETI as a science experiment, because that's really what it is. And even though it's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts and they are very passionate about it, we still have to approach this as this is a scientific experiment. We expect it to yield these results and answer these questions, not as a, you know, some kind of haphazard science fiction, you know, trying to find, or, you know, Elvis or Alf or name your alien here.
There are certain people who, for their own reasons, figure that what I'm doing is crazy. It's never going to work. They know there's nobody else out there. And I say, well, look, it's a question to which we don't yet actually have a scientific answer. And please, please, please don't confuse us with UFO research, because this is a scientific exploration. If I suggest to you that I've detected evidence of someone else's technology, I'm going to provide you with data. I'm going to provide you with evidence that you can check. I'm going to tell you how you can go and independently confirm what I'm claiming. But people who see things in the sky, and there are many things to see in the sky, and then interpret those as spacecraft, that interpretation is without evidence. They can't provide the data and the evidence to back up those claims.
And if we can't repeat a detection, we can't verify, we can't put our rigorous scientific standards on it. So we count it as a non-detection and just keep on moving forward.
I think that, I mean, when we look at Earth, there's so many people. We can't say about, oh, Earthlings are nice or not nice. There are some people who are good, there are some people who are bad. And so I think that it's hard to just, if there is extraterrestrial life, to group them all in one thing and say they're hostile, they're nice to us. Because I think with any country, with any planet, there will be such a diversity in life.
Well, I think alien abductions would give some people some social life. But honestly, I don't think that people are being abducted. I don't think any aliens are here. 1 out of 3 people think that the aliens are not only out there. Obviously, I think they're out there because we're looking for them. But 1 out of 3 people in this country think they're also here.
So, I obviously know that nobody's seen aliens, but I noticed that you had like this pretty cool little thing in a jar. Is that like your image of an alien? When you hear alien, what do you think?
To begin with, if they come here, they've got to be able to pick things up and, you know, hold a pair of pliers or use a soldering iron. Otherwise, we won't hear from them or they won't come here. But beyond that, I think that if you ever heard from the real aliens, they probably wouldn't even be biological, right? Because think about it. What are we going to do in the next 50 years? Aren't we going to invent our successors? Aren't we going to make thinking machines? What do you think about that? We going to invent thinking machines?
I don't know if we would, because some people would be scared of that, thinking that it would make us inferior, right?
Yeah, what if they took over? Well, at least you'd have, maybe they'd make us their pets. I mean, pets get to sleep a lot, right? Just eat when they want. I don't know, it might not be so bad, but it looks, I mean, if you talk to people who work in this field, they say within 20, 30, 40 years, we'll have thinking machines. And as soon as you have a thinking machine, they get better really quickly, unlike humans, which don't get better very quickly. And then they just take over. So you might be the last generation to actually run the planet. But my point is something else, that if you hear from the aliens, they've already done that. So they're probably machines. That'd be my guess.
This question I know probably won't have any kind of definite scientific answer, but when I say alien or extraterrestrial, what kind of image comes to mind?
I have a strange bias. For me, an extraterrestrial intelligent species is one that's capable of building and operating a transmitter of some kind, because that's what I can find. But whether they're individual organisms or whether they're some sort of multicellular organisms, or if they're like us, I mean, we're more microbial than we are human. And they probably have some manipulative appendages because they got to build things. They probably have some central nervous system because you think faster if you've got a lot of compute power put in one place rather than distributed through your body. But I don't know. If it were me, you know, I think the one thing that nature left out for you and I is a third hand and a pouch, because that's what I'd always like to have, right? I really could always use a third hand, and a pouch comes in really handy.
So, what happens if we do find aliens? I have to wonder if they have a plan of action if or when they do find ET.
Suppose we found that out. What would you think the reaction of the public would be?
I think that it would really differ because some people would be more scared and others would be really excited and others would be kind of indifferent.
But why would they be scared? I mean, if you pick somebody up on the radio and then we check it out and it turns out that it is ET, right? Now, why would Mr. and Mrs. Front Porch in downtown Seattle, why would they say, they found an alien signal, well, that's it. You know, we're going to go completely nuts now. Why would they do that?
Orson Welles, that's it. He was reading out that book about Mars and aliens coming and invading. Then people got really scared. They called the police and everything. And obviously this would be less hysterical probably since...
Well, it's true. Some people went a little bonkers, you know, when they heard that because they weren't sure whether it was fiction or not. But I don't know. I'm not convinced. I think that if we found a signal tomorrow, people would be interested. They want to read about it. But
I think everybody would be interested. I just think that some people might be scared as well.
So if they have more technological capability than we do, they could, A, make transmitters that we can't conceive of now, and we would miss them because we don't have the technology to find them. Or B, they could do something remarkable in order to hide themselves. And we couldn't do anything about that either. You could imagine that there are a number of different intelligent civilizations out there who we might not find. But then there might be those that deliberately transmit because they think that it's a good thing to let emerging technologies know about older technologies in the galaxy. And those we have a chance of finding, if they're there. And again, we just don't know that answer.
Meeting with Dr. Jill Tarter and the others and learning more about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence has allowed me to ask the askers. To find out more about the people finding the answers, I've seen the innards of a giant telescope and peeked inside an anechoic chamber. SETI's search is not just about the destination, but the questions they've answered along the way. Personally, I'm not really sure about whether there's extraterrestrial life. I think it's hard to be really sure of anything because this is such a theoretical field that I think it's all about asking questions and whether or not we get definitive answers. But hopefully we'll find something soon.